I'm almost
300 this year. 2,000.
But I last one
Start.
house. Exactly.
See. There's a Georgia.
Okay. So then one more house. So it's like, look from when you're from that. It's just inside the front. So the front story. Yeah.
Thank you.
So would you long here some? Still have Chris.
Yeah. Yeah. It was always the day.
Yeah.
Feels like it.
Yeah, now there's these.
I just had a little bit bigger. Yeah.
There's some lots, 5, 6 acre lots, 200,000.
Yeah, well, I at the time.
Our south window's bedroom, shelf in our bedroom, seeds growing on. But he got the whole day, he can't put my name on it.
Flowers there. Pumpkins of gourd.
We planted gourds, we planted about an acre of pumpkins last year. They did okay, but the grass was pretty tough on. Laying the plastic mulch will help this year.
Aren't they sensitive to heat, moisture, and everything? And it's gonna be just right, or they.
Yeah, no, we have. Seen it.
Yeah, Jeff Graham
For a week and came back.
is on.
Here.
They fixed that tile under 132 last year. Right there, curve by neighbors. And that's a lot.
Up a lot of getting more.
Yeah.
So you started it from here?
We've been doing a lot of remodeling. Leave that one on.
Leave it on. Okay.
I like it. You're from.
If you could, folks, bear with us just a minute. We have a few people that are coming in via Zoom, also some of the petitioners, a couple board members. Takes a little bit to get our techno all hooked up. See. Brad on there.
Yeah,
Brad's on
and Cheryl as well.
Cheryl on there.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
I
yeah,
just need to switch it to make this the host.
Oh, okay.
Because this one I think is the host now. I can remember how to do
If you leave the meeting here, will it just end the meeting? Is it, since it's now
that. Maybe
closed?
I am the host now, because it's not giving me.
I can rent it out every week if I want to. Then I get ready for this other sauce that-
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well, especially if you have to wait for the snow.
Wait, it's summertime. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I'd say it was gonna rain down here for 3 days. I'm like, I'm going north. It's just right there. I got two,
Okay.
I got two new here. I got here.
Yeah, I think we're, yeah.
Yeah.
Brad and Cheryl, can you guys hear us? Brad and Cheryl? you
Yes,
guys
I can hear you. Audio is good from your end.
Same with me, all good.
First meeting of the year.
Happy New Year.
21.
Amen.
Yeah, I saw a joke that said, hey, 20, hold my beers. It was saying 2021 is gonna be more crazy than 2020. It was like, 2020 was like, it was bad, and 2021 was like, hold my
Starting
beer.
off so well.
Yeah.
See, this keeps kicking me off the internet too. So give me one more minute. I'm gonna put it on my phone as a hotspot instead of being on our conference room Wi-Fi. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
We just charge you for overtime.
You're blazing fast frontier.
Blazing fast.
Just file for bankruptcy.
Semis aren't plowing over the pedestals out front.
Are the other attendees waiting to be admitted to the meeting by chance? Is there a message on the top of the host screen to add additional people?
Have a couple more people. Send them to me.
All right, let's try this.
I don't even know. That must be yours.
All right, I think we're ready, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to the Town Council 2021 First Planning Commission meeting. Happy New Year, everybody. Gonna start with the roll call. We have to, you need to call it, Rachel.
Sure. Connie Schultz Heinz, Brad Valentine. He is here. He just raised his hand. Kyle Eichhorn, Tim Pritchard, Carol Hannah, Jenny Sisson, and Cheryl Ramey Hunt.
Here.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Okay, first thing on the agenda is election of officers. You want to go over the summary of the positions, Rachel, or do that?
Can you go over them? I'm having still some technical stuff.
Jeff,
Yes, Jeff Graham is in.
So we have a president, vice president, and secretary for our planning commission. President and secretary positions sign plats. The president, of course, runs the meetings. And the president's absence, the vice president will run the meetings. That's about it. Staff, Rachel and I do most of the work here in the office. You guys can definitely request anything from us, but as far as work outside of planning commission goes, you guys know this better than I do. You come in to sign the plats, and we love it when you come to planning commission meetings prepared and ready to go. And that's on all of our members, and we really appreciate your expertise and how you guys are committed to seeing our community grow.
Okay. All right. With that said, we'll entertain nominations for president.
I will nominate Tim Pritchard for president.
Okay, have a second.
I'll second it.
Anybody else? Okay. All those in favor of Walk, please say aye.
Aye.
It wouldn't be safe to say we'll keep them the same. It'd be easier. Can we do that?
Yeah, you can do that.
Is everybody okay with that?
Let me, I think we got it fixed so we can hear people now.
You hear those?
Okay, I think we're good. Let me do a roll call just to make sure we're good. Connie Schultz-Hines,
Yes.
Brad Valentine, Brad, can you hear me?
You froze for probably almost a minute. Now you're back.
Okay. I think we're having some Wi-Fi issues tonight.
I will keep giving you updates in the chat if we lose you.
Okay. There is a motion on the floor to have Tim Pritchard be president, so we'll need everyone to vote. So I'm going to do a roll call vote, and then in the chat, can you signify by saying yes or no when I get to your name? Because we can't hear you guys from our side, so I can read your responses out loud. Okay, so I'm sorry, let's start over. Connie Schultz-Hines,
Yes.
Brad Valentine,
Yes.
Brad votes yes. Kyle Eichhorn,
Yes.
Tim Pritchard,
Yes.
Carol Hannah,
Yes.
Jenny Sisson, Cheryl Ramey Hunt.
Yes.
Can you type yes, please, Cheryl, in the chat? Thank you, Cheryl. All right, motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
All right.
Boy, we were spotting that one.
Someday we'll be back to normal. Someday. Vice President,
I nominate Kyle.
I'll second that. Hearing any other nominations? Okay.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Connie Schultz-Hines,
Yes.
Brad Valentine,
Yes.
yes. Kyle Eichhorn,
Yes.
Tim Pritchard,
Yes.
Carol Hannah,
Yes.
Jenny Sisson, yes. Cheryl Ramey Hunt. She also says yes. Congratulations, Kyle.
And Secretary, Make a motion to nominate Carol again.
Second.
Any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, can we vote on Carol, please?
Yes. Connie Schultzheim,
Yes.
Brad Valentine,
Yes.
he says yes. Kyle Eichhorn,
Yes.
Tim Pritchard,
Yes.
Carol Hannah,
Yes.
Jenny Sisson, and Cheryl Ramey Hunt. She says yes. All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, hopefully the board by now had a chance to review the minutes submitted on your pads. I could ask you to make a final review of those and entertain a motion to accept those as submitted, please.
I'll make that motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you, Carol. Do I have a second?
Brad Valentine will second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Let's do, we should do a roll call.
That's all we should do, just like you get here.
All right, do we approve the minutes? Connie Schultzheim,
Yes.
Brad Valentine,
Yes. Can you hear me?
Brad, what were you saying? He says yes.
Yes.
Kyle Eichhorn,
Yes.
Tim Pritchard,
Yes.
Carol Hannah,
Yes.
Jenny Sisson, Cheryl Ramey Hunt. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, old business. The thoroughfare plan update and also the UDO update, please.
I will start with the thoroughfare plan update. We did hold a working session between Madison County Council of Governments and planning staff on December 22nd. We worked through some cross sections. We had some issues with that access management control ordinance. And we also talked a little bit about the right-of-way dedication ordinance. So we are going to be starting that adoption process tonight, which that's a little bit later on the agenda. So we'll get to that in just a few. We are also going to be scheduling the steering committee meeting number 5 for the end of January or that first week of February. So we'll get invitations out to the steering committee soon on when that date is selected. But we are moving along on that one. And again, like we talked about at the end of last year, we do have a plan to make sure that we're staying on track for this project for the remainder of the project. And we're confident that we'll have substantially done around the same time as the Unified Development Ordinance. So we are on track with our new timeline. Unless you guys have any questions specifically about the thoroughfare plan, I'll roll into the UDO update.
Be fine.
Okay. For the UDO update, we have, I've included the UDO monthly report number 6 in your Google Drive folder. So you guys can take a look at that when you have time and see what we've done since that last report. The monthly reports, as we've talked about in prior meetings, as planning staff, we're going to make sure that you guys see those planning staff reports, those monthly reports, so that's our promise to you that we're staying on track through the remainder of the project. We did hold our second focus group meeting on December 9th of 2020, and that group focused on residential design guidelines. We included minutes also in that Google Drive folder for you guys to take a look at. I wouldn't say that we've made a lot of progress at that meeting, so we're looking at posting a third one to talk with more town leadership. You know, we have had a substantial change in leadership since we started this UDO project update. We want to make sure that as staff, that we are communicating what our leadership is wanting at this point. So we'll be working on that for some time in January, early February to get that focus group meeting done. Because we just want to, you know, for example, with the MI homes, you know, what are we really looking at for residential design guidelines? So I think pulling some of that information from leadership and then taking it to the steering committee and getting their feedback on it and then taking it to you guys is how we're going to wrap that process up with the residential design guidelines. We have been reviewing all the chapters. There are some specialty areas such as the historic preservation overlay, the sign ordinance. We're still kind of working through these buffer yard ideas before we would say that those pieces are done. But I would say we are, I think in the report it does say we're approximately 80% through the project, which is great. And like I said, we have an additional focus group meeting that will be coming up. And then we have one more steering committee meeting date that will occur sometime during the first quarter of 2021. So we want to make sure we get that residential design guideline focus group meeting done and before we take it back to the steering committee.
And we'll see a full draft UDO prior to that final meeting.
Yeah. Yep. So we are moving forward and very pleased about it.
What is the
Any
timeline?
questions about the UDO update?
What is the timeline for the UDO full draft, please?
Anybody online have a question?
Can you hear me? Test 1, 2.
Go ahead, Brad. I think we can hear you.
What is the timeline for the UDO full draft delivery to the Plan Commission?
Brad asked what is the timeline for the full delivery to Plan Commission? And I expect us to be bringing it in April. So we still have one more public input meeting that will likely occur in either March or April. And then that full draft will be coming to you. I don't know if we're doing it before the public input or after the public input. But we will check on that so I can give you a better answer. But I'm thinking yes.
And when does the moratorium end? Will we have the UDO in place before the moratorium ends?
Yes. The moratorium ends, it was 6 months from November. So the moratorium ends in May, and we expect to have it to you guys in April. Good questions, Brad. Thank you. Okay, anything else in regards to UDO or thoroughfare plan update progress?
More questions for Cheryl or? Okay,
Okay,
okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
New business, item A is right-of-way dedication ordinance.
Yes. Okay, we have 2 ordinances that are in your Google Drive folders, I believe. If you go to UDO or thoroughfare plan update, there's actually 3 documents in there. One is the thoroughfare plan map. There's also the access management and control ordinance and the right-of-way dedication ordinance. I had invited, let me see if they're in here, Council of Governments to come and present. I just have to see if they have logged in. Okay. I just promoted Brandon and Ryan from Council of Governments to talk about the 2 ordinances that we're going to look at tonight. And I just want to preface this that we are looking for not a recommendation tonight. We're just presenting the information to you guys tonight. And then we hope to get a recommendation from the Plan Commission at the February Plan Commission meeting. And then we would be taking it to the Town Council in February for a first reading, and then take it to Town Council again in March for the second reading. So we have some time to look at this and digest it and make sure it's what we want before we make any recommendations or approvals on it. So this is just a first step of information. It's the access management and control ordinance is a large document that Kayla and I have been working on for quite a while now with Council of Governments, and it's a lot to take. It's a lot to take in, and it's a lot to digest. So please take your time when you guys take a look through it, and I will see if I can get Brandon. Can you hear us?
Yes, Rachel, thank you. Can you all hear me?
It is really quiet. So let me see if I can get the volume on the other computer to work, or we can hear you better. Give me just a second.
Brandon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, loud and clear.
Oh, that is way better. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good evening. It sounds like everyone can hear me, I guess, on your end. My name is Brandon Candera. I'm with Madison County Council of Governments. And I am the project manager for the Pendleton Thoroughfare Plan. Please, at any moment, stop me or tell me that you can't hear me or want me to repeat anything on Zoom. But Rachel already clarified this, but what I'm asking from you all tonight is just to listen as I provide a brief introduction about both ordinances. Before the February Planning Commission meeting, please review both ordinances so we can go over your comments together, make revisions, and hopefully receive a favorable recommendation to go to Town Council for adoption. Before I introduce the Access Management and Control Ordinance and the Right-of-Way Dedication Ordinance, I wanted to take a step back and talk about the interim thoroughfare plan map that was adopted last year. The reason why it is an interim map is because it will be replaced this year as a part of the Pendleton Thoroughfare planning process. We felt it was necessary to adopt an interim map just in case development occurred before the Pendleton Thoroughfare plan could be adopted this year. The interim thoroughfare plan map establishes the hierarchy of functionally classified roadways in Pendleton. Functional classification in Pendleton is separated into local, collector, secondary arterial, and primary arterial streets. Also on the map is the minimum right-of-way widths for each functionally classified roadway and a contact zone to protect the historic downtown and Falls Park area in Pendleton. Would you all like me to discuss more about the interim thoroughfare plan map or move on to the access management and control ordinance?
Keep going, Brandon. Thank you.
All right, since there's no questions, I will talk about the access management and control ordinance first. Please keep in mind that this ordinance was drafted using the INDOT access management guide and similar access control ordinances have been adopted statewide. Another important note is that the planning director can grant exceptions, variances, or other changes to the ordinance when a specific situation arises with any development. It is good to have this type of flexibility in the ordinance. The access management and control ordinance will reference the thoroughfare plan map to determine what access control will be applied to different functionally classified roadways. You will find 9 different sections in this ordinance. Please use the table of contents to navigate this 30+ page document. Definitions and figures will help you along the way. There will be other figures added by the February meeting to help paint a picture about some of the wording in the ordinance. First and foremost, section 1.1 covers the purpose and intent of the ordinance. The purpose of the ordinance is to establish minimum regulations for access to property from road right-of-way. The intent of the ordinance is to provide and manage access to lands as it develops while preserving the regional flow of traffic in terms of safety, capacity, and mobility. Section 1.2 covers the applicability of the ordinance. The standards in the ordinance apply to private and public land along road rights-of-way that are under the jurisdiction of the town of Pendleton or INDOT. Dependent on the size of the development, a traffic impact study may be required, and this can help decision makers like the Planning Commission or Town Council to determine what access is appropriate for that development. Section 1.3 covers the roadways subject to access management regulations. This is where the thoroughfare plan map is referenced. Application of the access location and design standards of the ordinance requires identification of the functional classification of the street on which access is requested. Section 1.4 covers driveways and related access standards. This is probably the most important and largest section in the ordinance. A big part of this section discusses the access location standards, basically stating where the access cut is permitted to go. Table 1.1 in this section is important to pay attention to as it sets the minimum access spacing between adjacent access points. This minimum is determined by the posted speed limit. Table 1.2 in this section is important to also pay attention to as it sets the minimum access point spacing from streets and other intersections. This minimum is determined by functional classifications of the street. Section 1.5 covers service drives and other shared access standards. The use of shared access, parking lot connections, and service drives is intended to preserve traffic flow along major thoroughfares and minimize traffic conflicts. Section 1.6 covers temporary access permits. Section 1.7 covers non-conforming driveways. Driveways that do not conform to the regulations in this ordinance and were constructed before the effective date of this ordinance shall be considered legal non-conforming driveways. Section 1.8 covers waivers from the regulations in this ordinance. And finally, Section 1.9 references an existing town ordinance for a repayment policy. I know this was a lot, but the right-of-way dedication ordinance is much smaller. It is only 2 pages. So before we move on to the dedication ordinance, are there any questions off the bat about the access management and control ordinance?
This was, no offense, Brandon, but this was not my favorite one to review.
Yeah, it's really bulky. NDOT does provide the template we went off of, so it should cover mostly everything the state has experienced over the past 20 years in terms of access control. But that's probably a good thing, that it will cover any type of development or redevelopment for the access points to that adjacent land property.
Yeah, it's good. We got to a good place with it. It's been nice that we've had so many new projects come up in Pendleton that we've been able to, some of these things that are outlined in this document, we've been able to put a project to it and say, is this the way we want it to be? And then we've been able to adjust accordingly based on feedback you guys have given us, stuff that we've seen, just as staff. So I think I'm interested to see what your guys' input is on it, on small stuff that you might pick up on, particularly Kyle. So.
Lot to read.
Yeah. But you got a month, so.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
So the right-of-way dedication ordinance begins with definitions to help you understand what terminology is used in the ordinance. Right-of-way dedication is a great tool for the town to be proactive and save a lot of money in the long term when planning and constructing future transportation improvements from future development. There are only 3 sections in this ordinance. Section 1.1 covers the purpose and intent of the ordinance. The ordinance establishes guidelines for the dedication and deeding of right-of-way. The ordinance is essential to the preservation of existing and proposed transportation corridors that are expected to require improvements due to increasing traffic. Section 1.2 covers the applicability of the ordinance. Property owners shall be required to dedicate right-of-way to the town in accordance with the prescribed width for the thoroughfare plan map. Dedication of right-of-way is to occur when it is found reasonably necessary to mitigate an impact or any future impact which is a result of a proposed development or redevelopment. Finally, Section 1.3 covers extent, conveyance, and timing of the ordinance. This section discusses how a property owner would go about dedicating right-of-way to the town, and the required right-of-way must be conveyed to and accepted by the town prior to issuance of any building permit. Are there any questions about the right-of-way dedication ordinance? I'm not hearing any questions, so I know I talked a lot tonight and threw a lot at you, but these ordinances will really strengthen Pendleton and work with the Unified Development Ordinance, Comprehensive Plan, and Thoroughfare Plan. Please feel free to reach out to me directly over the course of the next month if you have any comments, questions, or concerns. Rachel and Kayla have my contact information. And finally, thank you for letting me speak to you all tonight. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon.
Okay, item B, or item C, I guess, is 2021-1 J10 commercial lot secondary plat. State Road 67.
Can you promote Nathan Althouse to panelist, and possibly Dr. Sisson? better for me to speak from here tonight or?
Let's do podium, because I think that's actually my group.
All right, so tonight we have a secondary plat for J-Tech Commercial Lots, a 2-lot commercial subdivision zoned planned business. And it is located at 7550 South State Road 67. There is one building on the north lot, Lot 1. It is Sisson Family Dentistry at that time. That's just south of Pizza King, right there at the intersection of State Road 67 and Angle Road. So if y'all remember, the primary plat did come through this board this fall, I'd say probably in October or November. And there were some items that we felt like we needed to discuss before the secondary plat came back and before that was finalized. So we've gotten to a point where the layout has developed a little bit more. You'll see that the ingress and egress easement on Lot 1 has been simplified significantly to allow for any shape of driveway to occur. Right now, it's an older development, and so by making that ingress egress shape a little more simple, we're allowing for a larger shared driveway cut in the future when something develops on Lot 2. They won't be specifically limited to this small asphalt drive that kind of goes through right now, really close to the building. So that was the intent there, as well as just to clean up the plat. So both lots are equally sized at 43,560 square feet, or exactly 1 acre. There is some existing utility and roadway easement along the southern portion of Lot 2, which will be either reduced or removed. The roadway easement, the petitioner would like to remove altogether, while the utility easement, the petitioner would like to reduce to 30 feet. There is no road there currently. That was put in place, I believe, back when Ashbury Point was developed. So it is just a grassy lane, but it does have sanitary sewer lines running through it, as well as water lines. Electric utility runs up and across the back of the lot. The surveyor did send me a copy of the easement document that he used as source material for this plat. And I've included an aerial image of the area as well. You can see that Ashbury Point has developed around this area, I think a little bit differently than that original drive had foreseen. However, I do think it's important that we verify with the petitioner either tonight or as a condition of approval that they have reached out to Ashbury Point and all beneficiaries of these easements to make sure that this is all right on all fronts to be abandoning that easement.
So they'll record a document to that effect, right? Just saying it on the plat doesn't produce it. So
Yeah, that is something that the county auditor picked up as well in her review of the plat, that there does need to be some more formal process. We can't end an easement on a plat. So, I guess just to finish my staff presentation, then I'll turn it over to you guys and the petitioner. A question about the easements is one of my concerns. And in addition, I had some questions about how the east and west lines of this lot were drawn. I've drawn a thing or two in AutoCAD, and it's just nice to know where you're drawing those lines from. In the legal description that I had seen, it was referred to as southeasterly line and then northwesterly line or something along those, along that verbiage, and that generally, in my mind at least, well, it's not a bearing. And so I'd like to see, I guess, that solid bearing or if there's a curve description, or something a little more solid in source material as to how he drew that, not just parallel to a right-of-way line, how the right-of-way line would get drawn. So my staff recommendation tonight is to table or give the staff and or a member of this board commission ability to approve the secondary plat once all of the technical issues have been resolved. And if that can't be done, to bring it back next month.
Okay, it's understood. Is there anybody here online representing JTEC?
Yes, Nathan Althouse of Miller Surveying is on Zoom. I'm going to turn it over to him.
Hi, I'm Nathan Allhouse with Miller Surveying. Yeah, I put those notes on the bottom of the plat, knowing that we would have to execute a easement release and a new easement agreement with the east adjoiner. And we've been in contact with them, and we got a verbal agreement to do that, but they're waiting on, the attorneys wanted to do it simultaneously, like do the agreement and do the plat at the same time. And we got this chicken and egg thing. But we have talked with Ashbury Apartments, and they're totally in agreement with, currently it's a 40-foot roadway easement and a 40-foot utility easement. And we want to eliminate the roadway easement and reduce the 40-foot utility easement to a 30-foot utility easement, which would encompass and include all of the utilities that are running through there. And we've got a verbal agreement that they'll sign all the documents. And I reached out today to get a copy of that document, which is not executed yet, but so we haven't seen it yet, but so I think that will be no issue. But as right now, if we have to keep the as-is utilities and take them off, if we don't get the agreement with the east adjoiner, I think we're still moving forward. We're just trying to get it reduced before we record the plat. So that's why I left them on there, so we can see the existing easements.
Okay.
So I assume the town and Fall Creek will sign off because we have water. The town has water there, and then Fall Creek's got sewer, so they'll review the new dimensions and sign off by itself.
I would like for them to take a look at it. Our water line is even further south than the
Yeah.
sanitary
It's
sewer
the
line.
sanitary being, whatever their easement requirements are.
Nathan, you haven't reached out to the water company or Fall Creek Regional Waste yet, have you?
I have not. No, sorry.
Curious.
Okay. I guess hearing those comments, there's seems to be several items still unanswered out there based on the planning department's recommendation to table. I'll make a motion to table to the February meeting so we can hopefully have all those items addressed and documented.
Second that.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to table to February.
All right, I'll do a roll call vote. Connie Schultz-Hyde?
Yes.
Brad Valentine?
Yes.
That's
Tim Pritchard?
Yes.
Carol Hannah?
Yes.
Jenny Simpson? Maureen Hunt? And Cheryl and Brad, I do have the audio all squared away now, so you guys can talk and we can hear you. Thanks for your patience with me.
Nathan, are you still there?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. Yeah,
If
we'll get some answers and I'll get with you next week, hopefully.
If you could, please round up the right-of-way plans for State Road 67 to get source material. And then I'm going to forward you an additional set of comments that we've had turned in here this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, item D is 2021-02 Pendleton Veterinary Clinic Site Development Plan Amendment. It's on South Pendleton Avenue.
That item has actually been tabled. Request to continue until next month.
You've done that internally then, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Item E is Fall Creek Corners primary plat. 2021-03 at 3104 West US 36.
Okay. I'm gonna give you guys a larger aerial plan here. I'll try to hold it up there. But this shows kind of the layout of the entire, so it's not an official document, that's really useful exhibit as we talk here.
All right. All the petitioners on this one have been promoted to panelists.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Who all is present for this petition?
Ben and Steve and Keith.
Everybody.
I know, we got them all.
All right, so this is a primary plat for Fall Creek Corners, Hughes property, at the corner of US
We are-
36.
We are not seeing a document being shared. We're still on the JTEC.
They heard you say this.
Oh, okay, there is a document in your Google Drive folder. It's actually in this petition, in this document as well that we're sharing. In the presentation, yeah, it is in the presentation. It's toward the end of the images. So you're not missing out. I think it's after the plat. So you don't need to stop sharing.
I'll try again.
Well, we skipped the back lines, tell them.
Oh, yeah.
I think. What about now, Brad?
Thank you. You're now sharing the correct document. We've
Yeah.
switched from JTEC to this, this item. Thank you.
For letting us know.
So tonight we have 3 individuals here representing this petition. We have Landworks Engineering. Ben Hool is here tonight representing that petition, in addition to the property owner, Steve Hughes. And in addition to the surveyor, Keith Van Wienen of Precise Land Surveying. So everybody's here who should be able to answer any questions. So this is actually where Papa John's is, and Dogs and Suds, grooming. You'll notice a lot of activity out there right now. Bigby Coffee has gone in, the end unit, and we recently approved a partial site development plan so that they could have a drive-through approved, in addition to some other site and parking improvements. And the drive into this shopping center should be a lot easier here this winter. It's already looking really, really nice, and we really appreciate STQ's efforts on that end. The subdivision plat would divide this property into 3 different lots. The total lot size, I believe, is 4 acres or so. And it also abuts against 300 west on its eastern border. So we've got basic Alta survey here showing any encroachments, the existing building, the parking as it existed when the survey was done here before this last round of improvements to the parking lot. In addition to any utilities, easements, all that good stuff. And then page 2 of the plat is the actual lot layout. So this is how the lots would break down. You'll see they're all meeting the planned business the planned business zoning district minimum, which I believe is half an acre. It's 27,000 square feet. So they're all at least an acre still. Setbacks off of 67. This document actually does not reflect the most recent round of revisions. They would be 75 feet off of State Road 67. So that one has changed, and it reduces the buildable area of lot 1 by quite a bit, but by no means does it make it unbuildable. If you look at a typical fast food layout, a lot of times those buildings are pretty small footprints and kind of oblong in shape. So it definitely could still house a planned business use of a smaller building footprint type. In addition, there are going to be some shared access and parking agreements going on. So We have removed the parking setbacks from our requirements, but we have expressed an interest in seeing covenants or easements or some sort of agreement saying, this is what you guys are going to be proposing. Lot 2, you'll see on the far right, and it has a 75-foot setback from 36 and a 50-foot off of a newly dedicated, or will be newly dedicated portion of 300. 300 at this point is a basically an old county road, but it's increasingly being used as kind of a cut through. So we're not really sure how it's going to develop in the future, but it's in a, it's in a commercial area, so it's being used.
And we have recommended for the thoroughfare plan map that gets bumped up to a collector. So that's why we need to make sure we do a good job on collecting right of way for that, so we can do improvements on that county road in the future.
Yeah, currently the right-of-way line is actually inside the pavement. It's that old county road setup where the property lines extend to the middle of the pavement. There is no dedicated right-of-way. It matches up with the portion dedicated on the other side of 36 with Dairy Queen's construction. So that's what we chose to use as our basis on how much to dedicate or request to be dedicated with this plat. All right, and then the next page is that kind of layout of how it all looks once we put it together. And you can see that it looks a little different once you see an aerial underneath it. But it shows the existing improvements as well as what was approved at that site development plan review. How the drive will change, but is inside of lot 3 either way, and how it provides access to those 2 other lots. All right, so before I turn it over to Ben, I guess my staff findings, they've addressed any of the primary plat concerns that we had, and it meets the requirements set forth in Appendix A, primary plat requirements. And our staff recommendation is to approve with the condition that the building setback line along 67 will be 75 feet, and that shared parking and access will be formalized in recorded covenants and easements and reviewed at the time of site development plan review. In addition to, of course, other items such as the buildings that would be placed there, lot coverage, and drainage areas. You guys have any questions for me?
I had a couple quickly. So the existing building obviously doesn't meet the 75-foot setback. So are you gonna notch it around the building, or how is that lot gonna be treated?
Well, the building will be grandfathered in at this point. So it's 20 feet almost from the property line. And I bet you there's been a taking or two on 67 since it was built. And there were probably just different setback requirements. So it'll be grandfathered in at its current location, but should Mr. Hughes want to add on to it, any addition would have to be behind that 75-foot building setback line.
So it'll just be straight through the building at this point.
Yeah, it'll look a little scary right now, but ultimately it'll work out.
And then as far as NDOT, this is limited access right away, and it looks like the break and the limited access isn't where the driveway is, it's where the old driveway was years ago. So is that gonna get cleaned up with NDOT or that limit, because we're permitting access on a limited access right away?
The access is existing.
Yeah, but if you look at the Alta, there's a short, if you look where the old driveway used to intersect, that's where see, it says access point and it's pointing to it.
Here.
To the left. That's where the break in the limited access right-of-way line is per the NDOT take. So I don't know if that matters, but
I don't know either. I know originally when the Marsh Plaza went in, that's when this driveway was realigned.
but it wasn't cleaned up with the right-of-way. So that may be something, I don't know, if it matters.
All right. Ben, do you want to take over?
Sure. I will tell you that your comment just then on NDOT, I have been in touch with NDOT and we've chatted through kind of the improvements that you saw on the third page there. We did not talk about the access point, but we did talk about the 36 alignment in general. and how that was modified previously when the Southern Development went in. And they were fine with the way that the access is now. I don't believe that there's any legal standing for a need to modify that, but that's a question I can go back and ask NDOT as well. As far as the overall project, this is the development plan that we brought through a couple of months ago for you, partial development plan to both fix the alignment of the drive entry and then also provide for the drive-through Bigby Coffee that's in there now. The intent of the subdivision is to eventually get some other users potentially in there, which, as Rachel said, will lead to other development plans coming back for your approval with potential access to County Road 300, for instance. We don't have any intent of having another access onto 36 at this point. So, but yeah, we've worked through several issues with the right-of-way dedication as well as the setbacks with Rachel and Kayla. And I think we've reached a good point, and we will provide a, whether it's either a note on the plat or an agreement between all parties that will get recorded as part of the deed for the property for shared parking. And that should take care of that parking setback issue between the lots as well. So I'm here if you have any questions for me, but at this time, I appreciate your time and attention.
Keith had his hand raised. I think it was probably in regards to. People to talk?
Hello.
Hey, there you are.
Hi. Yeah, as far as that driveway entrance, I had a, there was a driveway study done back in when they moved that by Rail Surveying and Engineering and Richard E. Ward. I went through both their files and I could not find where NDOT actually gave those permits, but there was some correspondence going back and forth between them. So on the Alta, like Kyle showed, there's actually 2 access points along. There's one along 36 there, and there's actually another one over on 67. Kind of, yep, right in there somewhere. Yeah, right by the sign. So I don't know what you guys want to do about that access point, if you want to try and close that off or whatever. But the other one, I believe they moved, but I can't find the documentation for it.
What if we platted a non-access easement where you don't want drives to be? Because I was thinking you don't want an entrance on lot 2 down at the intersection.
No.
So you maybe consider the first, that stretch of the east line of lot 2 with like a 2-foot non-access easement to push the entrance away from the intersection.
You know, on one hand, I don't know if it's necessary. I mean, we will do whatever.
I guess
needs to be done.
access control ordinance may take care of that. So.
Yeah.
Right, but it does, and I know like our moving forward staff, we will be working with any developer that comes in, and if we don't want, as a planning commission, to grant them access. So when they come in to do their site development plan, if we say, no, we don't want you to have a cut here, we don't grant them a cut. So we're kind of the first layer. They can still go to NDOT and ask to get a cut, but if we don't approve that in the plan, they can't have a cut. So it's kind of a built-in protection for us anyway, that if we go through all these steps of cleaning it up, I think that's more of a technical side of it, but we do have the authority to not give them a cut. But, you know, again, if we should clean it up just for good housekeeping, that's perfectly fine with me with staff, so.
I don't think it's necessary. We control the cuts in the future, so. Get that. But the prior meeting we had with approving Bigby Coffee, excuse me, we had questioned the concerns with the drainage at the western end of lot 1, which typically gets very wet in the spring and the fall. Mm-hmm. And I think the petitioners at the time said they were going to do some improvements to that area. Could you comment on that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see within that development plan, they're kind of on the southern edge. There's a retention basin area, as well as an outlet that flows to the west. There is just enough fall to be able to get water along that front edge and to the one outfall on the site, which is a pipe that's down in that corner of 67 and 36 there. That pipe ends up tying into the NDOT drainage and going across the street. We've been able to get more documentation for what that looks like. That's part of my conversations that I've had with NDOT actually, to be able to clarify that a little bit. So we think with the improvements that have happened there, you'll have a much better situation today than you did previously based on the grades that we've done in the new area. And then anyone who comes in and develops either of the other two lots will also have to take care of their drainage on the lot as well. Does that answer your question?
Just raising the grade.
Yeah, raising the grade, and it was relatively slight because of the finished floor elevation of the existing building, but just making it consistent enough to be able to drain off of there. Yep.
And the existing building has some issues in the north or rear already with water. And,
yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
On as well. Steve, do you have anything to add?
She's still on.
He's on, I just asked him to unmute.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, I'm just paying attention, watching these guys do their job.
All right.
Any questions or comments from the audience, please?
Yes,
Could you come up to the podium?
oh, I'm
please?
so sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then please name and your address. That would be helpful for us.
I'm Becky Perry, and I live at 7031 South 300 West. It's the little brick house just north of the property. And I know there's a lot of water that stands there in that whole entire lot. I'm the only one that has a basement in that area. And I do know I've lived there since 67. So I do know that it didn't used to be that way. And I do know too that when the car wash was built, we raised the property. And then all the water come over on in my area, you know, just surface water. And if they're gonna raise the grade, I would just be really concerned with which way that would flow, because, you know, if they've got the pipe that goes under 67, it seems as though it's never cleaned out and it's always standing water there. And I just think that it just needs to be addressed with which way that's going to flow, and not flow to the north and around that way, because and to the east. It needs to go to the south, I believe. And when they was talking about the access on 300 possibly, I think that's really, it would be real close to Mr. Cantrell's property there, I would think, because it would be to the north there, and there's easement there.
There won't be any access on 300.
There won't be any. Okay.
Well, there may be. Wouldn't say that. You don't want to do another access point. Look at
Rachel, we lost you from an audio perspective.
I think
Can you hear us now, Brad?
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay.
I just think that property is awful short for another access to come in flat close to the intersection. And there's so many people that come out of the marsh and turn right and go north and hit her back on 67 again. You know, there's a lot of traffic on that road, you know, from when it was closed off and this and that. We all know it's a quick thoroughfare across there, but I just think that it needs to be addressed, the drainage majorly addressed before they start.
Are the elevations on lots of those existing lots, are they poorly graded so the water can't get to the 67 tile currently? Did you
Yeah, the
know?
existing situation out there is not great. And honestly, there's not the infrastructure in place to be able to make it a lot better. The way that we were trying to take care of some of that situation is to get the water off of that property line with Mr. Cantrell there and pull it over into a little drainage area, a little drainage swale, a little bit further off of their property line and onto our property. So that's kind of why we left that large space in there to be able to try to handle some of that drainage in there. That will be further addressed when that lot gets developed, and then have a proper outfall. Hopefully either back around to the 67 outfall or potentially down on the Cross County Road 300 West, but all of that remains to be seen depending on what gets developed there.
Well, and also too, from the north side of my property where 300 and First Street come together, from that to my front door is already a 4.5 foot drop.
Oh, I believe it.
So, you know, when the water comes down the road, you know what I'm saying? Because there's no curbs, there's no direct, you know.
Yep.
Yes, yes. So I just think that it needs to be addressed a little bit more on that drainage and water flow and how that is out there.
Yeah, I think in regards to where your property is located, you know, as we move forward with creating our roads in Pendleton, that is something that will have to be addressed. Certainly, and the Water Street intersection with State Road 67 is not a big deal at this time.
Right.
There are some, you know, more problems at that intersection is on a curve. You know, we have that little, you know, road right there, Water Street.
Right.
That, you know, is.
And then when they had broke, you know, I mean, because used to the road went clear up to 67 by the Dollar General, you know, and you know, I just think that it needs to be looked at a little bit more.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And just to further talk about that issue area right there, that is something that we are looking at in our thoroughfare plan update. We know there are intersections of town that, you know, have had changes over the years where that road doesn't function the way it used to. You know, we've made these modifications over time that we really need to address now that we're starting to get more traffic and more development in the area. So we need to make sure we're upgrading to make sure we're addressing. So.
Because that's a real busy 36 and that whole area. I mean, everybody knows.
Agree.
You know, it's a little town. Everybody knows what's going on out there. So.
Absolutely. So thank you for your input.
Thank you.
So I guess as these lots develop, you'll have an individual drainage plan that'll have to.
Yeah.
Not.
Yes.
For everybody.
So again, you know, it's nice to kind of refocus us at times because we do talk about a lot of these bigger picture issues or issues that are going to be discussed later on down the road. We are doing a primary plat here of just the subdivision land. And that's what we're looking at tonight is to make sure they're following our setbacks, our minimum acreage for a lot size, those types of issues. The drainage issue, like you said, Kyle, will get addressed when, you know, if this sells one of these lots and, you know, whatever company buys it and wants to build something there, we'll have a full site plan with that and we can look at the drainage and how that's all getting addressed. So with this, there's no necessarily earthwork happening on these two lots that we're parceling out at this time. That will come back to Planning Commission. We'll address that when development occurs.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
When that happens, if he sells, you know, a plot or whatever, will the homeowners around there be notified?
Yes.
Yes.
They will be. Okay.
Same dinner that we did tonight.
Okay.
You'll get a letter in the mail that says, you know, it's going under site development review.
Okay.
So not when it sells, but when they
Not when
file
it
site
sells.
development.
So they could sell it to someone.
Changes.
But whenever they go to start doing improvements to it, they want to put something on it, they have to come back and they'll get notified.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question.
Any other questions?
Rachel, a question from Brad Valentine. Is County Road 300 truly a county road, or does that fall under the town of Pendleton jurisdiction?
It's the town of Pendleton jurisdiction. The name of it is misleading because when it was brought into town, we never changed the road name. But it is the town's property or the town's road to maintain.
So any improvements or upgrades would be the responsibility of the town of Pendleton or the developers?
It will likely be Town of Pendleton. You know, and that is something that could be negotiated depending on the developer.
Such as, you're like,
Right, so if they're required with a traffic study to do a turn lane, that is the developer's responsibility.
So are there adequate right-of-ways dedicated to this to accommodate a commercial traffic flow?
We are dedicating the 40 feet just to establish at least some platted right of way. I'm not positive that that would be able to house all of the whole turn lane or all of the facilities we would need. However, if that were required, at that time, we would require additional right of way to be platted.
Based upon this development, will there be sidewalks installed in these areas?
Yes, and that would be part of the site development plan review whenever a developer decides to develop a parcel. And they would have to follow our planned business design guidelines.
We do have pedestrian facilities all the way down past Dairy Queen, don't we?
Yes.
So what about the frontage of lot 1 on 36? Are there gonna be sidewalks down there? Since they're developing that parcel.
If it's appropriate, then yes. And of course, the plan commission, these are design guidelines. So if you deem that it's not appropriate for sidewalks to be in a certain area, as stated in the plan business design guidelines, you guys have the authority to say, no, that doesn't need to happen in this particular area. You know, looking at this, I think it would be appropriate to have, I guess we would have to look at what the development is and what the project is. You know, we have a bike ped plan that has a side path noted in it along 67. So again, we need to kind of look at the context of a project and how that fits in with our comp plan and our other plans.
Right. Also, there is a lot of walking. We have a lot of people walk down 300 and it's there on the road. You know what I'm saying? They go from all the way up to Dairy Queen and all the way down to the Dollar General. And there's a lot of people walking on that street. And there's no street lights out there. So, you know.
They cross over and 67 over the water.
Yes.
The rest of the way through town.
Yes.
Yeah, I've noticed that, the little trail.
Yes.
Path.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? The audience? Anybody online? Rachel?
Additional comments?
All right. With that said, I'll entertain a motion to approve 2021-03 for the primary plan as presented with the staff recommendations to approve the building setback lines 67 and the shared parking access with formalized court of covenants as submitted.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you for the motion. Second. Would you call a roll call vote, please, Rachel?
Absolutely. Connie Schultz-Heim,
Yes.
Brad Valentine,
Yes.
Bill Eichhorn,
Yes.
Tim Pritchard,
Yes.
Carol Hannah,
Yes.
Jenny Sisson,
Yes.
Cheryl Ramey Hunt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Portions of this plat could come back, or the entire plat could come back as a secondary plat. So it's good for 4 years. So if one lot develops and the other one doesn't, they can come back with just one lot at a time.
There'll be a lot of changes when they sell a lot, the position of building on it. They'll have to engineer that lot for that building. Change the grade. That probably will help a lot of that flow to get to where it needs to go. Right now, I don't believe it can get to where it needs to
Right.
get under 67. Additionally, 67 is going to become 4 lanes someday. And that, that'll be addressed. So there's probably a lot of hope in the future for that whole area.
Yeah.
And
Regards
just
to that.
a little bit more, just to help you feel better
Mhm.
too, is we have our town engineer review those plans that are submitted to us by a developer.
Mhm.
And they do all the calculations to make sure that, you know, what the developer is telling us, their engineer is telling us is what our town engineer, you know, calculates to make sure they're doing their.
And I don't want to not be for, improvements and all, but I just think that the town needs to protect the homeowners also.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
I think they need to do that.
That's why we're here.
And I'm happy to see that this is getting some improvements as well.
Yes.
It's a well-needed improvement.
Yeah.
Yes. And if I can say, and I know it's possibly on down the road, but I think it would be a good thing if there would be a fence, possibly on between Mr. Cantrell's area and the said property, the whole entire thing.
The whole northern line.
And we
Yes,
have done
because
that,
it
yeah.
really does. I mean, for trash, if I don't know what kind of improvements or what's gonna be going in out
Take care
there,
of
but trash, I know I have trash from the car wash terribly already. And, snowplow, where's the snow gonna be plowed to? Is it gonna be plowed on him, or in an easement? You know what I'm saying? And I just think that needs to be looked at. And it's easier to ask for it now than try to get it back once it's done and then go, oh, well, this isn't what was supposed to be. So I've, like I said, I've seen that what's been going on there since '67. So, I just am trying to protect my homestead too. So,
Sure. Well, we
anyway.
always appreciate your input too. I mean,
Yeah, well, thank
that's-
you.
We want to hear that.
You're definitely the local expert.
Well,
over there, so.
I don't know about all that, but
Thanks
thank
again.
you.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? All right, meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Nice job. First meeting of the year in the books.
Thank you guys.
I'll-